be changing to an online speaker, as I've told you, who'll be connecting with us from London. And I visited the website, which is correlated to her talk, Scaladex, and it's not an eye catcher, but as she told me and explained to me, the inner beauty is there. You just have to unveil it and dissect it, which she will do in her speech. And she will take you on an introspective trip into Scaladex, just like into the anatomy of the human body. And then you will see how it is made, how it functions, and why it was made in the first place. So I hope we're getting... Oh, Kannupriya is already here with us. So she will also tell you if you want to become a mentor or maybe open source contributor and you're not yet, she'll tell you how to do that because she's doing it herself. She's a mentor at the Google Summer of Code. And what else can I say? Mid-level developer at Sky Television Services. Kannupriya Kalra in Anatomy of Scaladex. Over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. I would also like to extend my gratitude to each one of you for being here and for giving me this opportunity to hear me. My name is Kannupriya, and I'm very excited to be here today to speak with you all about anatomy of Scaladex. And this talk is going to be about my open source adventure and Google Summer of Code mentorship with Scala Center. I began my open source journey with Scaladex, which has been an incredibly rewarding experience for me. Today, I'll provide an overview of this project. I'll go on describing my role and discuss how it has fueled my passion for Scala. Additionally, I'll try to share some insights into my experience as a mentor for Google Summer of Code 2024 with Scala Center, where I have had the pleasure of guiding and collaborating with enthusiastic contributors. Moving on with my slides, these are some things about me and before I get started. So I love functional programming and I am a regular at all Scala conferences in London. And I just attended the Google Summer of Code Mentor Summit in California. And apart from this, I'm doing my day job at Sky as a Scala software engineer. Also, I'm contributing to Scala open source through Google Summer of Code program as a mentor until this year, but from next year onwards, I would be heading the program as an org admin. So here's the list of things I'm gonna talk about today. Firstly, I'll introduce you to GSOC, which is Google Summer of Code, and show you why you should get involved regardless of your level, whether you are a beginner or an experienced developer. You will definitely get a lot out of it. We will then dive into one of this year's very successful Google Summer of Code projects, Scaladex, which is a great open source starter project to show you how easy it is. And I will then tell you a bit about my journey into mentoring on this year's GSOC. And towards the end, I'll close with showing how to get involved with some insights and encouraging you to start your own contributions to the Scala community. So let's get started by understanding what this is all about and how Scala Center fits into this global initiative. So at the very least, like GSOC is amazing, and I would highly recommend and say that you all should be involved. And to start with, what is it? So it's an annual online global program which is designed to encourage participation in open source. And this year is particularly momentous as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of both GSOC and Scala. And with 34 organizations participating in this program, Scala Center is one of these open source organizations. And this is one of the biggest open source event that is happening across around the world. And today I'll be discussing everything in the context of Scala Center's involvement in this program. And this year, 10 contributors have been accepted under the Scala Center for this program. And about Scala Center. So Scala Center is where the real magic happens. It's the organization that has created our beloved very own language, Scala. And with this program, you'll get an opportunity to learn from people who actually worked on creating the language and its associated libraries. So next question that goes on is like, who can participate in this program and how they can do that? So good news is everyone can participate. So that's what makes this program very beautiful, and just they can participate in different roles. So if they are a university student or some newcomer doing an industry job with respect to Scala or open source, then they can participate as a contributor to gain valuable experience and skills. So this program is actually geared towards beginners first and foremost, and it is intended to be a learning experience for people at the very beginning of their careers. And it is also intended to give an opportunity to people who would otherwise not have one, like someone from a disadvantaged background or someone who can't do it just by themselves. So Scala Center will definitely prioritize their application for that when making an acceptance decision as a potential contributor. And we can also participate as an experienced Scala developer. For example, like the way I did it for 3 projects this year. So as I have been working with Scala for several years, I decided to participate as a mentor to guide and support new contributors. So this slide talks about how all of this works together. And it's sort of a collaborative agreement between a mentor and a contributor and Scala Center, with the final approval which comes from Google. So Scala Center is the organization that is organizing it. Mentors and contributors, they put in a lot of work for creating a successful proposal. So once mentors have created project ideas, then all Scala Center has to do is they review those projects. And coming up next are contributors who are going to apply for those projects. And once they have applied, as mentor, we have a list of contributors' applications, and we have to select one of those based on however we like, a interview, a take-home test. Then we have to create a project proposal with respect to the contributor that has been selected, and we submit that proposal to Google, which then decides if this project will run or not. And the good thing is that it pays up to $6,000 to successful contributors. So all of the contributors that get selected, they get paid for it, and it's one of the only paid open source initiative which really makes it well worthy. And so I did talk a bit about how we can participate as a mentor. I'll go in more detail here with that. So basically you need to propose a project idea which is related to Scala and its associated tech stack, and submit a pull request on Scala Center's project ideas list page. And the project can be either a new initiative from scratch or an enhancement of an existing project that you started long back. So that makes the project idea like pretty flexible. Then it can be a personal project of yours, or it can be a open source project of your choice that you want to learn and mentor someone with. Then this project can be categorized based on the effort that you think it would require. So it's mentor's responsibility to categorize the project. It could be a 90 hours project which goes under a small project category, a medium 175 hours project, or a large 350 hours project. Then that sort of dictates the amount of money Google is going to pay the contributors as well. Additionally, like the projects, they can be classified based on difficulty level, like if it's a student level project, or it's the project requires an advanced level developer. Once all of this is done, the project will first be reviewed by the Scala Center's org admins, and they will see if they are going to accept the project. And if they do, they would add it to the project ideas list page. And contributors, they will have to apply to work with you, and you can select the most suitable candidates proposal. So the project list will then be sent to Google once the contributors proposal has been sent. And we have deadlines for all of these. The project list will then be sent to Google for a final selection, and the project will only be sent to Google if a contributor is associated to work on it, like because it's a program between a mentor and a contributor. So it can't be like a mentor is just doing the project by themselves. And another good thing is that all of this is a collaborative experience. So more than one people, for example, 2 to 3 people can also mentor a project, and they can propose a project idea together. Moving on to how to participate as a contributor. So you'll have to assess your interests and your abilities to identify the most suitable project from the Scala Center's project ideas list page. So once you have selected something that you think is yours, then that you can do particularly with maybe a bit of help from a mentor, then you can reach out to the mentor to express your interest in the project. So they have the emails and all related information about the mentor in the idea list page as well. And then you can prepare a detailed proposal outlining what is your plan for working on this project. If you are clueless, you can seek help from a mentor for a draft review of your proposal if that's what you need. Then you can submit your proposal to Scala Center organization. The mentor will then review all the proposals that they have gotten and select the most suitable one to work with. Probably take 1 or 2 interview if there's a lot of people applying for it, or maybe give a take-home exercise to shortlist and judge your capabilities for it. So if you are selected by your preferred mentor, your proposal will then be forwarded to Google, and it's Google which is going to make the final decision on a project selection. So I'll just hold on here for a few seconds. If someone needs to click a picture of this is something where I have added all the useful links related to the program, and they are very handy. And this is everything for 2024. And here I'm doing this talk, and right before we start the program for 2025. So this can be used as a list to seek inspiration from and understand how things can be done. And with this, I will start the demo and talk more about Scaladex, which is an index of Scala open source libraries. So I would like to ask, who has seen Scaladex web page to the audience? I'm sure some of you would have seen it for sure. I'm glad to see some hands. So Scaladex is an index of open source libraries, and it provides a tool to all the Scala developers worldwide for searching Scala libraries and finding the one they need to develop their Scala applications. It is exclusively for searching Scala related libraries and dependencies, kind of like a one stop solution. So, my goal here is to help you understand some of the important concepts related to it. I'll also explain a bit about how we organize the project, all the different modules, architecture, and how we are doing the testing. So, this will help you decide if you want to consider this open source project in your Google Summer of Code journey, or probably just contribute to it uh, in as an open source project and probably pick up some tickets and do some things. Also, it will tell you that how easy all of this is. I've just spent a year mentoring 3 projects, and 2 of them were related to Scaladex. So I'll now go on with an intro to Scaladex. So before I do that, just a bit about, I'll talk a bit about libraries and how we publish them. So when you create a library, and if you want to publish it publicly so that it's available to anyone, usually we publish it to Maven Central. And there are many repositories uh, where you can publish the artifact, but the one that is used nowadays is Maven Central. And Maven Central is used for Java, Scala, Kotlin, Groovy, etc., other JVM based ecosystems. So let's discuss a bit about Maven Central now, as it's a tool many of us have used in our work. It was originally designed with the goal of allowing the download of Java libraries from a centralized repository. While it was built to support the JVM based platform, Scala, which can run on other platforms such as Scala JS, Scala Native, also utilizes it. Although Maven Central was created for a specific purpose, it is now used for a wide range of languages. And given that it is used for finding libraries, why was Scaladex actually created? Is a very obvious question for anybody who doesn't know much about Scaladex and have been using Maven Central for their day-to-day work. So I'll just hold on for a few seconds for you to ponder on this question, that why was Scaladex created, before I go talking about it. Okay, so Maven Central serves as a repository for storing libraries, but it is not designed for discovering libraries and not for learning about them. So its user experience basically is not ideal for Scala libraries, and it does have some limitations. such as compatibility issues with different Java versions. Also, it was designed with a focus of JVM only platforms without considering the native JavaScript or other platforms. So, what we need is a solution which is tailored to the Scala ecosystem, which is much richer and diverse. So, we need a search function exclusively for Scala libraries, the ability to search by application type, ability to search by platform version, language version, given Scala has a few versions and libraries do change according to them, or a combination of all these filters. So, Scaladex is a website that addresses all these needs by allowing users to filter and explore libraries. They can view the relevant links and find libraries based on metrics such as number of stars on GitHub, which indicate the popularity of a library. And Scaladex, being just dedicated to Scala libraries, does more than just extracting the information from Maven Central. It also integrates the library data from GitHub, offering a more comprehensive resource for Scala developers. So, this slide illustrates the interaction between Scaladex, Maven Central, and GitHub, detailing how Scala library information is managed and displayed on the website. So the first part is publishing to Maven. So whenever a developer publishes a Scala library to Maven, it has a POM file. So POM file is a project object model file which contains metadata about the library, including its group ID, artifact ID, version, and other essential details. Then next step is notification to Scaladex. So once the POM file is created, Maven then sends a notification to Scaladex indicating the presence of a new or updated Scala artifact, which is happening here. Then third step to this is pulling the repository information. So Scaladex then processes like this information and pulls additional details from associated GitHub repository like README information, badges, some statistics like commits, contributors, open issues, how many forks that have been made, etc. With this, the next step that goes into this is updating the database. So Scaladex updates its database with this newly fetched information using a background job. This ensures that the library details are current and complete. So, good news is we are updating 9,000 project libraries every day by fetching the recent stats from GitHub. So, all the users can have all the latest information. Last step that goes in here is displaying all of this information on the web page. So finally, the updated information is made available on the Scaladex website, allowing users to search for and view details about Scala libraries. This entire process happens seamlessly in just two steps. One is receiving the POM file from Maven, and next is pulling repository details from GitHub and then showcasing it on the website. So by automating this whole workflow, Scaladex kind of maintains an up-to-date index of Scala libraries. So I hope this was a good insight into the behavior of Scaladex. Moving on to Maven Central. So I can help understand what I just said better. So when we publish an artifact, we use its reference. And a reference is something that is made of a group ID, a artifact ID, and a version. And the artifact contains a POM file, which, like I said earlier, contains the metadata about artifact and several jar files. So your build tool needs the POM file basically for resolving the dependencies and jar file to compile the dependencies. So here we'll talk about a Scala versus a Java artifact. So in Scala, libraries modify the naming convention by incorporating additional information. Like you can see here, they append the Scala version and platform version in the artifact name itself. This approach diverges from Maven's original design principles, which don't account for such metadata in artifact names. To manage this, we have developed a custom convention tailored to Scala's needs. Java artifacts typically have a straightforward naming structure where the artifact ID is just the name of the artifact, like we can see here as an example. In contrast, Scala artifacts include the binary version, like this one. So, this is necessary because Scala 2.12 and Scala 3 are not binary compatible. So, the binary version helps ensure compatibility with the correct Scala version. So here you can see that there are different Scala binary version to understand the complexity of what goes beneath it. So there are different binary versions based on what platform is used, is your project targeting. Default is JVM, but for other platform they are specifically mentioned. Example, the binary version is CATS Core 2.13. There is no mention of JVM in this. If it's Scala JS, we mention SJS and then the Scala version. If it's native, we mention underscore native and then the Scala version. This here is an example of JVM dependency. I'm sure we all must have seen this. So this is the final dependency identifier that you add to the SBT build file. It includes the group ID, the artifact name, and a version. So that makes me talk about semantic version. So in Scaladex, for a version of an artifact, we use semantic version. Now, what's a semantic version? A semantic version is composed of different parts like major, minor, patch, and pre-release. And if it's not a stable version of a library, we will see a pre-release version. So RC here is release candidate. I'm sure most of you will know. M1 is when we want to publish an artifact, even when the library is not stable. So that's a good option. Non-semantic version is if after major, minor, and patch, there is something else, then it's a non-semantic version. So here I'll talk a bit about POM files. Like I did earlier, I'll just brief through it that it has all this metadata about the artifact. And here we can see the SCM, which has the GitHub URL. And with this, I would come to the real infrastructure behind Scaladex. So let's look into more internal details. How, what, why. So the first thing that I appreciate the most about this is single server, single process. all code runs in one process, including API and background jobs. Due to the monolithic architecture and manageable user requests, which are just a few thousand daily, then this whole thing is made of KISS principle, which means keep it simple, stupid principle to avoid over engineering. Next, it's a purpose built infrastructure which is built to meet specific needs, which I highlighted right before this, to ensure maintainability, supportability, and approachability. Then we all need to have a data storage for which it uses PostgreSQL for data storage, and that is housed on the same VM as the search engine. Search engine it uses is Elasticsearch, and for POM file handling, when POM files are published, they are parsed first and then the extracted data is stored in the PostgreSQL database. And here's the dependency graph of the whole module. So we start with core. Core has data classes and interfaces. So data classes are artifact, project, binary version, semantic version, these kind of information. Interfaces are web database, search engine, GitHub client, GitHub authorization. Then we have infra template and client relying on the core module. Infra has implementations related to SQL database, which extends the web database. Then Elasticsearch engine is there, which extends the search engine. Template is like our very own HTML template, which are 12 templates here. So they make for our front end. Then for client, we have Scala.js scripts, which are used for auto completion, some Sparkline. Then for server, we have HTTP routes for front page, search page, project page, some background jobs for admin services, and the main class, very own main class server. And for data, we have some snapshots loaded of the database, which run by data run init. And on the slide, you can see all the external dependencies that we are using. Search for JSON serialization, very important. Doobie is being used for SQL queries, Elastic4s for Elasticsearch queries, Peko HTTP, like we just heard about in one of the previous talks, for HTTP server. Twirl I've already spoken about, Bootstrap for the front end layout and components, and most important, Scala test for testing. So here are the background jobs which maintain the state of the Scaladex. They are scheduled every X minutes per hour, and they can only be monitored by the admin. So if you need to make some changes related to this, or you have something to add, you can either create a ticket or have a discussion with the admin. I think the amount of testing in this project is very impressive. There are unit tests and integration tests covering all the important use cases. So with this, I will end with some useful links and move on to the next module on my agenda, which was how mentoring looks like with Scala Center. So for me, it was a highly rewarding experience and a very good opportunity to learn and grow professionally. I just represented Scala Center in a global conference as a delegate and spoke to lots of delegates from different organizations, which was a very good experience for me. this will make you part of a very intelligent, encouraging, knowledgeable community to talk to learn and grow. And one of the things that I'm really passionate about is giving back to the community, like Scala community, in my way, and to encourage everyone to contribute to open source, because we all use open source. We've been using it for years and years, but I think it makes for a slight bit of opportunity to give back a little, given this doesn't take a lot of time. And the community is very, very nice. And if we engage in with projects, either of our choice or related to the community, we get to learn a lot. For example, I was coding, I'm a Scala developer at Sky, and parallelly I was coding on some of the Scala libraries uh, for Scala Center. And given they were written by Scala language creators, I got to parallelly learn how things are done, how best practices are followed, how nice, clean Scala code is written. And here is a list of open source projects that I have curated based on my 1 year of experience to contribute. So there's a lot of interesting new work that we have at Scala Center, which is, of course, related to Scala 3 because it's recent. Then updating the Scala website, Scaladex, Scala Docs, Scala JS, SBT, Feral, and FS2. So these are some of the projects that I think are very, very good for learning, for someone who is a mentor, and for someone to contribute who can work under a mentor. But yes, we can also always contribute for projects of our interest. And with this, there are some additional resources that I have added here for you to find all of this information. And that's it. Thank you all. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Kannupriya, I hope you heard the applause, and I will ask if there are any questions here maybe at the venue. If you do have any questions or maybe some thoughts or some comments, you can also share. We got a microphone. If I don't see any, okay, but you got all the links Kannupriya shared with us, so I saw people were taking photos. So if anything comes up when you look up the links, you can also always contact her and ask some questions, right? Okay, perfect. So thank you very much, Kannupriya.